This is my delicious keto pumpkin cake. You guys are going to love it. Yes, I bought this really big pumpkin, beautiful pumpkin, and I roasted it in the oven with a little bit of olive oil and salt for about 20 minutes. And all I had to do was puree it in my food processor. I didn't put it through a colander or strain it or anything. I used the puree just like that, and it was perfect. And that's really what I like to do, use fresh pumpkin when in season. So let me show you how I made my pumpkin cake. And I have used these 4-inch round cake pans because the cake is small, but it's going to give you for about 4 small servings. Make sure you always grease your cake pans. I'm here using coconut oil, making sure that nothing sticks. That's really important. Now you can also use a bigger cake pan if you like 6-inch. But I wanted to make it a tall cake. I wanted to make a 2-layer, dramatic looking semi-naked cake. So that's why I used the 4-inch round cake pans. So all I have here are my eggs. It's just 2 large eggs that I had already beaten up a little bit. Now I'm going to add my coconut oil, which I melted in the microwave and then I let it cool down. You don't want to add it hot to the eggs because then you're going to scramble the eggs. And you can also use ghee or you can use melted butter. So there was my coconut oil. And now here I struggled a little bit to find the correct size measurement spoon that I was looking for. And I found it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add my vanilla. Just a little touch of my vanilla extract. So essentially just all of the wet ingredients are going into this bowl first. Now, if you wanted to make this a larger cake, like maybe 2 6-inch round cakes, you can always double the recipe. There is my delicious pumpkin puree. As you can see, it looks very similar to the one in the cans that you buy, but this one's a little bit lighter in the tone, but it's way more delicious, guys. And I have used the pumpkin like by boiling it or cooking it in the microwave. The best flavor and texture you get is when you roast it in the oven like I did. And I just really prefer fresh pumpkin. I mean, if it's pumpkin season, go ahead and buy yourself a pumpkin instead of buying the can. So I'm just incorporating everything really well before I start adding my dry ingredients. Now here, what should have gone in here next was the sweetener. My truvia that I'm using here as a sweetener, but I didn't think about it, and I went and added the coconut flour first, which is what you're gonna see I do now. Well, but first, I forgot one ingredient, which is my liquid stevia that I get at Trader Joe's, because I used also stevia to sweeten it. And what I did was I used 2 droppers full in there. And always it's a good idea to, when using the sweeteners, sugar-free sweeteners, to combine the stevia and erythritol. It just gives for a better taste. So here's my coconut flour, which, like I said, I should have added last, and I'll tell you why in a minute here. I added my coconut flour. And these are my spices. I have a combination of cinnamon, and I'm using pumpkin pie spice. And I went a little heavy on the pumpkin pie spice. I just love it. You don't have to add that much if you don't want to, but I think it makes a fantastic combination So I like to put a good enough amount that I can taste it. That was my salt and my baking soda. And here's my sweeteners. So I'm using a combination of the brown sugar truvia blend, which you guys already know I love, and the granulated, just the white truvia from the packets. And the brown sugar blend just really also gives it a deep flavor because, of course, you know, it's combined with a little bit of molasses. So it really, really is my favorite in something like this. So as you can see, since I added the coconut flour first, the batter thickens up very quickly. It'll get thicker, you'll see here in a few seconds. So just make sure you incorporate everything well. And I didn't show it here, but to the pumpkin puree, I did add a little bit of lemon zest. You don't have to. I love to put lemon zest on things like this. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I did add that. So here's my batter. And so I have the 2 4-inch round cake pans here. These are probably your best bet for a cake like this, like I said, but you can use a bigger one if you'd like. I also added some walnuts. I chopped them up and I added them to the cake. I love the unexpected crunch that it gives when you're eating the cake. Now, you could either put all this batter into one of the 4-inch cakes, 4-inch cake pans. But at this point, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and divide the batter into both pans. I mean, why not? I have both of the pans, and that'll just make it easier. I don't have to cut it in half or anything. So there's one of the cake batters. And make sure you have your oven preheated to 350 degrees. Always, before you start any baking recipe, preheat your oven. Unless it calls for something different, but most of them do. So once you have the cakes in the cake pan, just kind of level it out the most that you can, like I did here with the spatula. And as you can see, the equal amount of batter is in each one of the cake pans. And now they're going in the oven at 350. I initially gave it about 20 minutes, but then I found that it needed a little bit longer. So I went about 25 minutes. Now, after your cakes come out of the oven and they're completely cool, wait till they're completely cool, then you take them out of your cake pans. And I like to wrap them in plastic wrap and put them in the refrigerator. And this is what I do with my regular cakes as well. It keeps the moisture in, and then it's easier to handle after a couple of hours. So what I'm doing here is something I also do with my regular cakes. I'm taking off like the caramelization off the cakes, off the bottom of the cakes. Now, as you can see, the cake is pretty dark. Like I said, it's because of the spices that I used, and I used a good amount. So it looked kind of burnt, but it's not. It actually is pretty delicious. So I am cutting off the caramelization, just a tiny little bit of that. And I do that for presentation so that when I actually cut the cake, it just, assemble it and cut it with the frosting and everything. It just looks so much prettier. So it's an extra step. You don't have to do it, but I find it really makes for a prettier cake, prettier presentation. So I do that to both of the layers. And you can also, at this point, if you wanted to cut these layers, each one in half, and make like thinner layers to have like more frosting in the middle, you could. I didn't want to, I didn't think it was necessary, and I like how it looked. Also, I don't like to use too much frosting. I don't like too much frosting on my cakes when I'm going to eat them anyways. So I took the caramelization off the sides as well. And this only takes a few minutes, guys. It doesn't really take that long. I've gotten so used to doing that. All right, so here you have, I've already taken off what I wanted from the cakes. And what I'm using here is a sugar-free syrup that I have. It's caramel flavored. And I'm just drizzling it on top just to give it extra taste, extra delicious. Now this is my keto frosting, and it's butter and cream cheese with a little bit of stevia, the liquid stevia, also some lemon juice, and a little bit of salt to offset the bitterness of the stevia. Very, very simple, you guys. If you guys want to see how I make it, I will be happy to. Just let me know in the comments below, and I'll make a short video on how I made it. But it's super easy and it's super delicious. As you can see, I'm putting just a very light layer of frosting in between the cakes. But of course, you can put as much as you want. You can go crazy with it. And now I'm drizzling my other layer of the cake before I sandwich them together. And there you go. So you can see it makes for a pretty cute, small, kind of tall and handsome cake. So I went ahead and I drizzled this second layer with a little bit of the syrup again. And at this point, you can just go crazy with the frosting. You can, if you like decorating your cake, you can use like a Ziploc bag and, one of those tips that you use to frost cakes or to design cakes, put designs on cakes. You can do that, or you can just do what I'm doing here. And I, again, did like a semi-naked look. So I did a little bit more frosting on the top, but less on the sides. And it really looked very nice, guys, as you could see in the pictures. Came out really, really cute. And so it's just enough, it's just enough to maybe share with your spouse, or just eat it in 4 different portions. In my opinion, I don't like to make it any bigger because it's just dangerous. It tastes so delicious that then that's all I want to eat. So I try to make it small, just to, to give me a little bit of something to go after a meal. Or you can even eat this for breakfast with your coffee or your tea. And that's just perfect. So I went ahead and added some more walnuts on top. And I also had some toasted coconut, and I did that as well. So thank you again for watching, you guys. I hope you tried this recipe.